Hi guys, it's Mrs. Reed. This video is just an introduction to your independent study for this week. We're going to be doing something a little bit different. That's having a go at some mini mock style questions around Black Panther and the film industry. I'll be setting one of these tasks each week on a Monday, and for the first couple of weeks I'll be setting a video to talk you through it too. Okay, so on Show My Homework you will have access to two documents. The first one is a list of the mini mock questions. There are 4 sets of questions on there. I would only like you to answer the mini mock 1 questions, okay? And they are from Paper 1, Section B, Question 3. Now, Question 3 is a staggered answer, so it's actually broken down into 4 parts. There's Question 3A, 3B, 3C and 3D, and you can see that they go up incrementally in terms of the marks. So A worth 2 marks, B worth 2 marks, C worth 6 marks, and up to D, a longer response, worth 15 marks. So I'm going to give you some examples of each of these questions and talk you through how to approach them. The other document you'll have is a mark scheme, and that's a mark scheme I'll be using to give you some feedback on your responses, but I thought it's useful for you to be able to see that when you're constructing your answers too. Okay, let's look at question 3A. Question 3A is asking you what is something. So it'll be asking you to demonstrate your knowledge of one thing about media industries that we have studied. So if you think of all the different terminology we've been learning, they could ask you any of those things. They might say, okay, tell me, what is film production? What is distribution? Or what is monopoly? What is marketing? So you can get up to 2 marks for this. You can get 2 marks for showing good, accurate explanation with exemplification, so that's an example, and detail. So in my terms, and I've broken this down for myself, I think really we need to show a knowledge of the media industry. So whatever term it is that we're being asked to talk about, we need to make sure our subject terminology then is really accurate, that our answer is short but still includes a level of detail, and that you use an example where you can. So 2 to 3 sentences only is sufficient for this question. I've created a practice answer here just to a model answer to show you. So I asked the question, what is distribution? And then I've gone on to answer. So I've said that distribution is the process of ensuring a film is made available to view by an audience. And that first sentence there just directly answers the question with a definition. I want to add a little bit of detail though to show I understand a bit more about distribution, so I've included this sentence. Marketing is part of a distribution agreement. Okay, that shows me that I understand a little bit more about what goes on at this stage of the film chain. Finally then, I want to give an example. So I'm going to use an example. I'm going to say that conglomerates such as Disney, so a specific example of a film producer, I'm going to say that they're able to distribute films through one of their own subsidiaries. So now I have 3 parts to that. Definition, a little bit more detail, and an example, and I should be able to do that in either 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, so when you're ready, you might want to pause the video and do this one at a time, or you might wish to wait to the end and then complete all of them. When you're ready, I want you to have a go at that first task. So your question is, what is a high concept film? Okay, so give me firstly a definition, then some further detail, and finally an example, or one or two examples. Okay, let's look at question 3b. This is very similar. The phrasing of the question in the exam will ask you to briefly explain something. Again, this will be linked to your case studies and media industries. So I've used the example here that I'm being asked to briefly explain the term convergence. Now, convergence could apply to any of the media industries, so I want to make sure when I do this that I give an example from film to support what I say. I need to show knowledge of the media industries again, accurate use of subject terminology, a short but detailed response with an example, and again it's only worth 2 marks, so I think 2 to 3 sentences is sufficient. Let's have a look at my example first and just trace the structure of my response first of all. So I'm going to say what convergence is, a definition in my own words. Convergence is the process by which technology merges and comes together. Okay, nice and clear and succinct. Then I'm going to look at an example. Well, mobile phones are a really good example of convergence, which has changed the way in which film audiences consume film. Okay, so I've made a nice link here then between the term itself, a device that shows this as an example, and then the film industry. That's not quite enough. I do want to give a little bit more exemplification. So I'm going to say, well, the media audiences, are able to watch anytime, anywhere, via streaming and video on demand services such as Netflix and Disney. So again, and Disney Plus. So again, given those nice clear examples. Now, if I'm just to get rid of all of that for a moment, and let's have a quick look at if I just want to identify the accurate subject terminology. Well, first of all, that's evident in the first sentence. I'm clear what convergence is. However, subject terminology can be words such as audience, okay, just any terms that make this specific to media. The word consume, that's again a media term. And streaming and video on demand. Okay, so there's quite a lot there that shows that beyond just talking about convergence, I have a wider understanding of the media. And equally, if I go back to the last question, do the same again, just looking at where is the media terminology. Well, aside from just talking about distribution, I'm talking about audience, I'm talking about marketing. I know what a distribution agreement is. In fact, I go further. I use the term conglomerate and the term subsidiary. You can see here just how important that really precise media terminology is in showing my understanding of media industries. Okay, so again, you might wish to pause the video here and have a go at your question, or you may wish to continue and listen to the rest of the video first. Okay, so the next question is worth 6 marks. This time I can see from looking at the exam papers that you're asked to explain 2 features of something, as well as referring to one of the case study films to support your answer. Now, so far we've only looked at Black Panther, so that's the one we're going to use to support our answer. You can see that prior to this, I kind of talked more generally about film. Now I need to be specific about the text we have studied, Black Panther. In order to get 6 marks, the mark scheme is really applied to your answer twice. You can award up to 3 marks, it says, for each feature. So you're asked to explain 2 features of something, and you're awarded 3 marks for each part of your response. So you might want to think of your answer in 2 parts. For this, you need to show knowledge of media industries, and it says you need to show understanding of those industries as well. So this is where those examples, specific examples from the case study, will come in to help link to your knowledge of the industry and show your understanding. You need to be able to use accurate subject terminology again, and this time to give a more detailed and in-depth response. Okay, let's look at mine. I've been asked to explain 2 features of film production and refer to Black Panther to support my points. So I'm going to think about the 2 things first, that's my plan. So what 2 features can I name that I will then be able to explore? Well, for film production, actually, that's quite easy in the sense that I could talk about what happens pre-production and then post-production. So those 2 things are going to structure my answer. So let's start with that. Feature 1. Pre-production refers to all of the stages of planning involved before a film can be shot. Okay, so 1 sentence clearly explaining what I understand of that feature. That's not enough though to secure the marks. It says it needs to be detailed and accurate. So let me give some examples. This includes script writing, auditions, research, and storyboarding. Okay, that's better. Now I can think about Black Panther. What do I know about the pre-production stages of the film which might be really useful here? Okay, I can remember that in Black Panther, the production team actually travelled around the coast of South Africa, undertaking research in order to really accurately depict African culture in the film. So that mattered really to representation of different social groups. So I'm going to use that here as my precise example from a case study. And that really shows my understanding of what pre-production is. Whoop, wobbling all over the show there. So the second part of my response then, if I change colour, post-production, well, this refers to the editing and the development of the film that takes place after the film has been shot. So again, a sentence to clearly outline. Really, I'm just giving a definition of what I think that stage of production is. And I'll follow the same structure as before. Next, I'm going to say what that includes. Well, it includes visual effects, it includes CGI and sound editing. And then I want to think of at least 1 example from Black Panther to support my answer. So I'm going to say, well, in the film Black Panther, CGI was used to construct the fictional African setting of Wakanda and develop high production values that are in line with the other films in the Marvel franchise. Okay, so 2 parts to that response, each one worth 3 marks each. Again, you may wish to pause the video and have a go at your question now, or you might wish to look at question 3D, the final one. Okay, so 3D. This one is our 15-mark question. So you can see that the mark scheme is much longer, and there's going to be a higher expectation of what we write and what we include. So in order to get up to 15 marks, I need to show excellent, detailed and accurate knowledge and understanding of how context shape films, with possible reference to relevant theoretical perspectives. It says there needs to be detailed reference to the set film to support my points made. Okay, so this is the first time that I'm attempting to write this kind of a response, so I want to give it a try. I'm going to need to include knowledge of media contexts. So that means I'm going to talk about things such as the economic, political, social, or historical background of the film. I want to show how those contexts might then influence the media products and the way that they have been constructed. I'll still need to use accurate subject terminology. I definitely need to be able to give a more detailed response. I need to use specific examples from the case study and, if possible, apply some theory too. Okay, so my question asked me to explain how the economic contexts might impact on film production. So when I'm thinking of something that is economic, I'm thinking about money, about the film as a commercial product, how it might generate profit. I might also want to think about the economic context of it being made, so the fact that it's made by Disney, a highly successful and profitable conglomerate, well, that's going to impact the type of film that's made. I can be pretty sure it's a different film to that would have been made by an independent producer on a very low budget. Okay, furthermore, before I start writing, I'm going to think about which theorists might fit here. Well, the industry theorists that we've looked at so far have included Curran and Seaton and Hesmondau. Now, Hesmondau's theory could work quite nicely here. If I'm thinking about profit, then I want to see how that's balanced against risk. So applying Hesmondau to my answer might be a good strategy. Okay, let's look at my example. So, I've started out by explaining what I know of the film in order to contextualise it. Black Panther 2017 was produced and distributed by Marvel, and I'm going to say who they are. Well, Marvel are now a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company. So this little opening line is actually highly successful in demonstrating my knowledge of the case study. Name of the film, year it was released, who produced and distributed it, and the fact that the owner of that company is Walt Disney. So now I'm going to say more about the film itself. Well, economically, why is this important? Well, we know it's a mainstream film. In fact, we call it a high concept film. And I can be precise about the amount of money it cost to make. It had a budget of over $200 million. Now, it might be important to point out that because Disney is a highly successful global conglomerate with a vast fan base and a back catalogue of films, they can really afford to spend such large sums of money making a film really without too much concern about its success at the box office. So all of this section here is useful just for giving me some economic context. I could go further if I wanted. I could talk about how much money the film did make in the box office. That would be a useful addition here. At this point though, I've decided to apply some theory, and I think that Hesmondau is a useful one to answer the question. So I'm going to use a phrase which is a really good way to introduce theory. So according to Hesmondau, and that's going to let me outline then what is Hesmondau's kind of general view of media industries just in a sentence. Okay, and I want to simplify it just to one sentence. So I'm going to say that according to Hesmondau, cultural industries such as film are driven by profitability and risk. Okay, so those were those two big ideas that really helped me to understand Hesmondau's theory. Super. Now, I can't just leave it there. That's not sufficient to show my understanding. So if I want to go a bit further, I'm going to say, well, what else does he argue then? If he's saying they are driven by profit and risk, why? Well, he argues that producers will make decisions based upon how they can maximise profit whilst minimising risk. Again, I could go further here. I could talk about the fact that Hesmondhal's recognising that the cultural industries are primarily commercial industries and therefore must generate money and profit. So, now I've outlined Hesmondhal's theory, I'm going to give a couple of examples that he suggests are an impact upon the decisions that film producers make. Now, this is that little bit where I'm starting to say, show my understanding of how this, the economic context, influences on the media production. So Hesmondhal then says that this would include using popular stars, making genre films, as well as really developing sequels and franchises. So all of that bit there applies theory. Probably not enough though on its own, because at the moment I haven't linked it to Black Panther. So this is my next step. Okay, so perhaps I'm going to be tentative there, use a little perhaps. Perhaps then this can be seen in the production of Black Panther. Now let's link up the two. Okay. Now, despite what I've said earlier, which is the fact that Disney is financially secure, they still seem to be applying the things that Hesmondhal suggests. So I've put in that little caveat, despite their financial security. Okay, where's the examples then? Well, firstly, we know the film is part of Marvel's comic book franchise. And we know it's part of a highly profitable sequence of films which Disney bought the full rights to in 2009. So, linking it to the theory and the economic context with a precise example from our case study. I can go a bit further though. Furthermore, the hybrid genre of the two combined of sci-fi and superhero is almost guaranteed to be popular amongst fans from a really wide demographic. So again, securing the success of the film. Finally, I want to go back to that point. What did I say? They can use popular stars. So finally, Disney's potentially risky decision, and I put that in quotes because when we are looking at the theory, we looked at, film as a, quote, risky business. A potentially risky decision to include a predominantly black and lesser known cast. Okay, so there's two things combined there. We know predominantly black cast was unconventional for a superhero genre and a mainstream Marvel film. And also many of those actors, although successful, were not necessarily part of our kind of mainstream celebrities and very instantly recognisable and well known. So perhaps that is one of their riskier decisions, and this then is made less risky through the inclusion of some well-known stars in lead roles such as Michael B. Jordan and that says Martin Freeman, that's not what I mean, Martin Freeman. Okay, so you can see here that I'm trying to just demonstrate how I might construct through 3 different parts my response. Overview at the beginning, application of theory, and then exploration of that through examples in the film. So I think this one is the trickier of the 4 questions that you've got to answer. However, I'd like you to have a go. Your question is actually, let's have a look, asking you to explain the significance of ownership and control in the film industry. So you're going to be thinking about what you know of the who owns Black Panther, and the structures of their company. So you might want to think about the film chain, forms of integration. You could talk again about economic context, budget. You could certainly look at applying, let's think. If I've applied Karan and Seaton, well, you could apply Karan and Seaton as I've applied Hesmondau. So think about what is it that their theory suggests, and then how might that be demonstrated through consideration of Disney. Okay, so it says at the top here this should take you about 25 minutes. I would say, as this is your first attempt at this, do not worry too much about timing. Definitely go back, check your answers, use your book where you wish to support you in constructing these. And then when you've completed it, send me a copy, okay? Send me a copy, a picture or an email version of your work. You can upload it to show my homework as well. If you have any questions, you come across something and you think, I really don't know how I'm going to start this or answer, again, please let me know. And I hope that we can check in at some point through the week and a short Teams live session. Okay?